Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners at all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's guest is someone who, if you've ever said running just isn't for me, you're going to relate to a lot. After years of hating running and quitting everything she started, it wasn't until after her third baby in the middle of postpartum chaos that she had a moment of clarity. She ran to the end of the road and back, and even though it felt small, that one run ended up changing everything. She trained for her first marathon during COVID, worked with a coach, ran a virtual race with DIY aid stations, and documented the entire thing online. Not with highlight reels, but with real moments of struggle, doubt, and showing up anyway. Since then, she's gone to run major races like New York City, Chicago, and London, and she's helped thousands of runners feel seen, especially those that are just getting started. Without further ado, let's get into it. Please welcome Erin, aka Mrs. Space Cadet. Erin, thank you so much for coming on the show. Super excited to talk to you and break down your first marathon story. I know you've been on a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews. Hopefully we'll hit some stuff here that you haven't hit before, but welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, well, let's take it back to the beginning. How did we get introduced to movement? Where did running start for you? Like, how did this whole journey come about for you?
I actually used to hate running most of my life, actually. And I think that really started with the gym class mile, as
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it does for a lot of people. I think it had to do with how I felt after the mile, and I just felt like I couldn't do it. I don't really know. And I was a really active kid. So my whole life I was super active, but for some reason just running for that long, I'm like, this is torture. Don't like it.
Yeah.
And so even when I played some sports earlier on, maybe junior high, and maybe freshman in high school, I would just try and always avoid the running part of practice. Never was successful in avoiding it, but just never liked it. And then as I got older, I stopped being as active once I got my first job. I was in like a lab type setting,
Mm.
and I was on my feet a lot, but it wasn't exercise. And I was so tired by the time I got home, I just didn't exercise. Same with when I got a corporate job, then it was like sitting all day at
Yeah.
a desk. And that is when I started my downward health kind of spiral
Sure.
where, it's like wine after work instead of going for a walk or a run and just things like that. Probably using food to cope. And I think for me, running really didn't come till after I had kids. So there was a point where after I had my first, I have 3 kids. After I had my first daughter, I really tried to train for like a half marathon.
Mm.
It took so long. It ended up not ending that well. Like my feet just were kind of flopping forward. I was walking and you know, the first half was okay, the second half of the half was not
Sure.
type of
Yeah.
thing. So even that was not a good experience, and I'm like and I only did that because my best friend was doing it. And so
Mm.
I'm like, I'm never listening to you again. I'm not doing this anymore. That was horrible. Fast forward 2 kids later, I had not run since that, and I would try and stay healthy in some ways, but I would always quit. Like one thing about me, I used to quit everything that I started. And after I had my third baby, that was my first C-section, which
Mm.
was kind of different mentally also and physically. And I can't remember exactly how old she was. She was still a baby. I got cleared to exercise and I was just like sitting in the chair one day and I'm like, I feel like if I don't move, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Mm.
And that's when I like ran to the end of the road and back, and that was like the start of my running journey. Running.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
So you've had several seasons of running where it's kind of been like in and out of
Yeah.
your life. What do you
Yes.
feel like the stereotypical first run to the end of the road? Like, was that a defining moment for you, or were there several things that came after that that were a little bit more defining of like, I'm gonna stick with running for a little bit?
I think that first one was very defining in the sense that it wasn't that far and it wasn't fast, but I do remember coming home my husband, I like vividly remember this moment. My husband was ripping up the shag carpet in our house because we had recently bought it. And I came in and I was like, I think I need to keep doing this because that was the first time I felt not stressed. I felt calm and I felt content. And I did, because like you're dealing with postpartum, sleep deprivation.
Sure.
You have no clock. You don't know what time of the day it is. You're hungry all the time, but you're not really hungry. It was just my brain was always off. And I think that gave me like this sense of calm.
Yeah.
And he looked back at me and he was like, do it. Like if that's what you gotta do, like, we'll make it happen. At that time I was primary caretaker. So I was working from home and taking care of the 3 kids, and little did we know we were about to be virtual schooling and
Mm,
everything during COVID. So it ended up getting a lot harder.
yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So
Yeah.
everybody's at home. I mean, I feel like I might be putting words in your mouth, but like it seems like you had something to control. Like everything was so out of
Yeah.
control that you had something that like I can do this thing for myself,
That's
which is
so
a great
true.
feeling.
That's so
Wh-
true. Yeah.
yeah. So where did we take it from there? So you've got this like inspiration now. What were you thinking you were going to turn it into?
From there, it was really interesting because I've always made videos kind of since I was little, and even in this season in my life that we're talking about now, I would make videos of my day and send them to my friend. Not put them online, but just
Yeah.
like edit it and send
Like a
it
little friend
over.
blog. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that's what my online videos are, but
Yeah.
at the time I didn't, but I was in the habit of filming everything, and something told me to film that first run. And I remember talking about how I can't remember, I was so like sick of myself. I hate to hear myself say that now, but I was like so sick of myself. I just had to do something about it. I think those were like the words I used. This
Yeah.
was on YouTube. And I filmed myself because I'm like, what if I, do this every day for 30 days, and then at the end of it I might look different, like maybe I'm happier, maybe I don't know, healthier or something. So I ended up filming every day of that because I felt like, number 1, it would keep me accountable to myself.
Sure.
And number 2, it kind of gave me an out in the sense of, hey, if there's no positive change after 30 days, like you don't have to do this anymore. So I kind of
Yeah.
like gave myself that deadline.
Cool. I like that. So, and you were planning on filming the entire thing? Like you were going to document the journey?
Yeah, so I would just it was the same thing every day, and it would be to the end of the road and back, maybe like 15 minutes. It was about a mile. I'm not sure if I fully got to a mile at the start. Eventually I worked up to that, and then I would go like 10 steps beyond a mile, and those were the increments I used, not even like a tenth of a mile. I'd be like, I'm doing 10 steps further.
Oh, cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to ease into it. We hear so many stories on this show about like the either running for punishment, like you mentioned, growing up, like
Mhm.
playing a sport, running for punishment, not liking it, and then finding running later in life because you've like written it off your entire life as something that's horrible.
Yeah.
Or you find somebody who's comes out a little bit quick and starts to hate running, or like your experience, like you run a half marathon that doesn't go so well, and you it's all downhill from there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for you, like you started when you started to like it, you started to get into it very incrementally, and I think that there's a lot to say about that, like starting slow and building up to something. So I know you were doing it by the steps, which I think is very cool to do it by the steps, but where
Yeah.
like did you start to think about any bigger goals from there about, okay, I'm gonna do another half marathon or another 10 or do a 10K or something like that?
At that point, I didn't, because one thing that actually really shocked me, and I want to talk about this because it might resonate with some of your audience,
Yeah.
is running postpartum felt like running in a completely different body. Like somebody
Mm.
took my body off and then put my head on someone else's body, and I didn't know how to move it. And it
Mm.
felt like it was moving in places that it didn't used to. And my joints felt really weird. Like the whole, I think that's why I would do like those 10 more steps increments, because I was like, I think my body is in such shock from like, having the baby, but also just growing babies and your body changes so much, you can't really expect to be like, okay, I had the baby, I'm going to go run now. It's going to feel like it used to. I was not
Totally.
expecting how different it felt. Um, but after I did do that for a while, because like I mentioned earlier, I quit everything that I start, I told myself I'm going to train. I know this is crazy, and I don't, what's the word? Condone this, but I was like, I want to train for a marathon. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this in 12 weeks or 16 weeks. I fully knew like I need over a year to,
Yeah.
yeah. So, so I wanted to fully work up to this. I had a coach at the time, Alicia. She's at What Runs You on
Yeah, yeah,
Instagram
yeah.
and
She's great.
TikTok. Yeah. So she also had babies. Like she understood that. And she also knew, like, yeah, you're basically starting from zero. It's smarter to not rush into it, even though it seems tempting to just like throw yourself into it. She worked me up like so slow that I could not injure myself. That was really like what I wanted to avoid. I wanted to not injure myself, and I wanted to be able to like safely get to the 26.2. Um and yeah, so it was a definitely a slow, long training cycle, but it kept me with that end goal in sight. It kept me focused, and it kept me from quitting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I love that you worked with a coach too for your first marathon. I think that's unique. Um, why the marathon? Why do you think you jumped right to the marathon distance instead of running another half or running some of those like shorter distances?
I think because I felt like if I were to sign up for a 5K or a 10K, I just wouldn't run, that I would procrastinate and
Mm,
try and like fit training in right before. But I think I in my head I was like, well, a marathon, there's no way you can procrastinate. Like you have to start now, and you have to keep keep it continuous.
totally. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Cool. So you had plenty of time to train for this thing.
Yeah.
What sorts of like what did the plan look like? Like how was Alicia helping you ramp up mileage over that year span?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard for me to remember now, like a lot of the details, but
Yeah.
I know for a fact she had strength training in there, which I didn't do. And I always, regretted that because I felt like crap not after the marathon or at the end of the marathon. My last marathon in London was the first training cycle that I learned my lesson and I actually
Mm,
did it, and it made a huge difference.
yeah.
But yeah, that first time around, I know she had strength training in there, and then there was like, a couple shorter runs during the week and then a long run on the weekend. And then yeah, uh obviously like the taper and everything, but I do remember my husband was training for this with me,
Mm,
and this was so I had signed up for the Philadelphia Marathon, and it was obviously canceled because of COVID. And Alicia, she's so determined. I love that about her. She was like, I'm going to make a marathon, and we're going to have hydration stations and everything, and we'll figure it
stop.
out.
That's so cool.
Dead serious. And so that so yeah, my husband was training for it with me. We knew at this point it was going to be virtual and that it probably would be harder. We couldn't It was the height of COVID. We couldn't even have friends and family like along the sidelines
Mm,
because we just didn't know how like risky it was, and I didn't want anyone to get sick. So as we're training and as we're getting to these before taper miles,
yeah.
I remember thinking like, how on earth are we going to be able to run 26.2 miles? Because it was like we'd be on like a 15-mile run or something, and I was just miserable. I would have to be walking. I was downing so many electrolytes, like just trying everything, and I remember feeling so discouraged a lot. But the good thing about having a coach, I feel like people think only elite athletes or something need coaches. Like, in my opinion, having a coach for your first marathon it's like priceless. You
Sure.
cannot replicate that with a PDF, plan. Because that's something you could be like, I'm so discouraged. I just ran this, and how am I going to do this? And the coach who's been through a lot of training and running and everything and marathons can talk you through it. Whereas if you didn't have a coach, or me specifically, if I didn't have a coach, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people just need the accountability aspect, and I agree with you.
Mhm.
I think that more people should consider hiring a coach for their first marathon. I know for me, like it's a good experience to kind of fumble your way through a marathon plan, just so you know like where you shouldn't make mistakes and learn your lessons. But if somebody's
Mhm.
already figured it all out and made the mistakes for you, like by
Yeah.
all means,
Yeah.
help me skip some steps.
I think also as a new runner, all the information out there is so overwhelming.
Yes.
It seems a lot easier to me now, a lot simpler to understand, but in terms of even like what shoes and what hydration and how often to hydrate and fuel and all these things, even finding a good running bra, or
Yeah.
shorts that don't ride up your thighs. There's just
Socks. Yeah.
so much. And so to figure all of that out on top of figuring out how a run program, I just could not.
Yeah, no. Take that off your plate so that you can just focus on training. I think that
Yeah.
that's smart. Cool. Well, I know you said that you don't remember like a whole lot from it, but do you remember if were there any runs where you felt like you had to like a little bit of a confidence boost? Did you hit a 20-mile run and feel good, or was it that feeling like you said on the 15-mile runs where you were like, I'm relying on my coach and I'm trusting her, but I'm
Mhm.
feeling a little bit like less confident?
I think it was a lot of both, to be honest, but when I did have a really good confidence boosting run, it always came as a shock to me
Hmm.
because it would be after I had a really, really crappy run. So I was expecting and dreading the next run or the next long run to be crappy. But when that wasn't crappy, I was like, whoa, maybe I can do this. And I would really try and carry that feeling through the inevitable crappy runs after that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So got through training obviously, and we got into taper. How were you feeling going into taper? I feel like people are either they get to taper and they're like, "What is this? What am I doing? I should be running," or they're like, "This is like the best break. I needed this." What was
I
taper
thought
like?
yeah, I thought it was the best break and I definitely needed it, especially as a mom of, at that time my kids could not take care of themselves. Obviously, one was a baby, one was a toddler, one was I think in kindergarten.
Yeah, your hands are
So
full.
yeah, so I remember those long runs on a weekend taking so much time, and then all of a sudden I had that time back, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is great," I get
Yeah.
caught up on things.
Yeah. So you got to settle into taper a little bit. That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And then so virtual marathon. Obviously, nobody wants to have their first marathon experience be not a sanctioned race, but very cool that your coach was able to put together this course for you. Do you remember like how she put it together? Was it a specific route? Did you have any influence in it? Like how did that all the logistics come together for the race?
One thing that was really important, I think, to both of us was that we wouldn't be on a road and deal with the danger of cars
Mm.
or traffic in any way. And where she lived at the time, there was a big trail system. So kind of like a rails to trails
Oh, sure.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, she would run on there all the time. She knew exactly how many miles to what point and everything. And she made a route that it involved like maybe a couple loops and maybe an out and back, and that equaled 26.2 miles. Along the route the day before, she was hanging bags of hydration and fuel along.
That's
I mean, this
awesome.
was totally makeshift, and it was, but I think it was perfect because we didn't have to wear like big vests and worry
Yeah.
about refilling our bottles anywhere. And yeah, she organized that whole thing.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
love it. It's a unique experience for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Cool. So how were you feeling leading up? Like, were you excited? This was this big thing that it's not just the, 18-week, 20-week plan, like you were saying that you were
Mhm.
leading up to it. Like, this was a full year that you were leading up to it. So how were you feeling?
I think I was nervous. I was like kind of a mix of excitement for it to be over and also nerves that I wouldn't be able to do it. Also, I had been at this point filming not just on YouTube, but I was on TikTok and Instagram. And I think at
Mm.
that point, TikTok really blew up. So there were a lot of people, following that. And I think I even maybe live streamed some of it.
Oh, cool.
I can't really remember, but I ended up raising money for a local women's shelter, and
Cool.
so with the help of my audience, we raised, I think it was almost $5,000, and so that was really
Nice.
exciting. So I felt like even if it's horrible or even if I can't finish, like we managed to pull together and do this really great, thing to help women and children. So I think that was where my head was at, kind of like, okay, this could suck, but here's this positive, you know?
Yeah. If all else fails, like, we did a good thing here,
Yeah, we
guys.
did a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. And I know you've had a lot of interviews like around the social media part, so I don't want to go into it too much. But
Mhm,
like, how was that influencing the pressure that was on you? You know, like having so many
mhm.
eyes on you, I can imagine that adds a whole other level to your first marathon that you probably didn't need.
Yeah, I think for me, because in my videos, I'm the same person in my videos as I am in real life. In my videos, I was used to showing myself failing and crying and having the worst runs or not being able to finish a run. I remember filming my husband Dan picking me up at after like 10 miles of a 16-mile run, and like, okay, well, I couldn't finish, guys. And I think to me it was important to show that. So even I think going into it, I wasn't worried like, oh, what if I disappoint people? Because I'm so used to being like, hey, this happens, it's all right. And I think
Yeah,
I was just fully prepared to do that
that's
if things
good.
went south.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good though, because I think
Yeah.
that I think we're in a better spot in the running space now, but there definitely was a period of time where it was like very much rose-colored glasses around the whole experience,
Yes.
and it's like all your favorite influencers are running marathons, but not really showing the training aspect of it. Or when they do show it, it's like, I just did the perfect speed workout. And you're like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
that must be
Yeah.
how everyone goes. So when you fail, you're like, okay, like it must be just me. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to have people that are showing the real side of training because it is certainly not easy to get
Right.
through a marathon block. So that's great. Cool. And then race day. So we get to race day. We're lined up at the quote unquote start line, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. Did she have like was there like a legit start line or was it just kind of like, okay, we're gonna go now?
Yeah. I mean, we had a start line, and I don't remember how we said, if someone said go or something, but yeah, she really tried to make it as official as she could
Cool.
with what she had.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, walk us through the experience. We could break it down in like a couple pieces. What was the first half like for you? Because that was the charted territory from your first race.
Yeah. The first half, I remember getting a little worried around kind of early on because I felt more tired and my legs started to ache a lot faster than they had in my long runs. So I was kind of like, oh, this is probably not a good sign. But, you live and you learn. I probably wasn't hydrating and eating enough carbs the day before. I thought you just eat a little spaghetti and that's fine. Um, and now before I run a marathon, it's like days of hydration
Yeah.
and days of proper nutrition. And so I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But I didn't really say anything. I remember because I'm like, I don't want to speak it into truth.
Yeah.
Like,
It'll
oh, if I
pass.
just ignore it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it did not pass. I felt like it was going to take us all day. Well, it kind of did. And I think it was also raining, now that I think
Mm,
about it. Yeah, love
sugar on
that.
top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So the first half we were feeling just a little bit like nervous because our body was doing something that we weren't expecting it to, or maybe
Yeah.
just a little bit early. So going into the second half, was Alicia along the course too? Like, did you get to see her at all throughout the
She
whole thing?
was she was running actually with us, and she
Oh, okay.
she also had one other athlete doing the same thing, but
Cool.
she was faster than me. So Alicia was running between us. She probably ran like over 30 miles that day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. So she's running back and forth. Was it helpful mentally, like when she would come back and see you, those
Mhm.
little check-ins? Was that helpful? Did that get you out of your head? Like that's pretty cool that she was able to like bounce back and forth between you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I remember thinking like no one else, or I'm sure maybe someone, but what are the odds that I get this level of treatment for my first marathon? like whose coach could really run it with them,
Yeah.
pretty much, you know? So I felt so spoiled, and I was just glad that she was there because every time I was like, "I think I can't, do it," or "My ankle is XYZ," she's like, "Well, this is when everyone feels the pain." And
Mm.
it was like putting things into perspective. I was like, "Okay, this is normal. Don't freak out. Just relax into it. Keep going." But it did feel like it was like just going forever. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even tell me what mile we're at."
Yeah.
Because nothing it will be good news unless it's 26.2.
Exactly, yeah. And you said that the course was like multiple loops, right? How was
Mhm.
the format like for you? Because I know sometimes with like, especially for your first marathon, like those loop formats can be a little monotonous when you start to see things that you've already seen before. But some people love them. Like, what was that format like for you?
I really don't mind even out and backs. I do those all the time when I run myself. I love a
Hmm.
good out and back. I love loops. And so to me, I don't know, I almost prefer it a little bit. I like the familiarity of things, and it was also outside in nature, so it was just the whole thing was trees. It all looks the same anyway. So
That's
to
fair.
me, yeah, so to me I wasn't bothered by that. I think my husband on the final out and back was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna do me in." But to me, I'm like, I don't know, at least we know when we're getting close then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, you can see the finish in sight with no
Right.
finish line. Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Lavelle Nutrition, a company redefining how endurance athletes fuel up. Most sports gels on the market weren't designed with women in mind, and that's exactly what Lavelle set out to change. Their fuel is made from real food ingredients and formulated to support female athletes through every mile without the gut issues that so many of us are used to. And when your training calls for more recovery support, Lavelle's real food protein powders are designed to sync with your cycle and your goals. If you're training for a marathon, a half, or just upping your weekly mileage, fueling properly can make all the difference, and Lavelle is here to help you do just that. Check them out at lavellenutrition.com and use the code MyFirstMarathon for 15% off your order. That's lavellenutrition.com, code MyFirstMarathon. Lavelle Nutrition, fuel that's made for you. Yeah, we'll keep breaking it down. So where did you hit, if you hit the wall, the quote unquote wall? Where was that point at where you were feeling like, all right, I could get this done?
Yeah, I think because there was like a wall around halfway, but it wasn't like the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one, I would say probably mile 20, which I think was very just my mindset. It was like a mind trick because I was like, I've never run this far before after,
Yeah.
20 or something like that. So that's when I really felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like my body wasn't going to be able to do it. And every step, I was just like, this is horrible. I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, so we had a wall at 13, but the real situation set in at 20. How was your body feeling at 20? That sounds like it was a little bit more like mental. But how was your body feeling at that point?
My legs, I remember hurting really bad. Like, not in the sense of, I've had IT band pain before where it kind of stops you in your tracks. Like you physically can't run on it until you stretch it or figure it out in some way. This was more like just painful steps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's brutal. Any cramping or anything like that, or it was just like a pain?
No, just a pain. I think just a soreness, achy. I probably had blisters. I don't remember what shoes I was wearing at the time. Maybe Brooks. Yeah, not probably not the best for my feet at the time. I don't really remember.
Yeah. Yeah, so just kind of getting to the finish line any way we can.
Yeah.
So and then we finish, right? So we get through those last few hard miles. Well, I guess before we get to the finish line, I should ask. I always like to ask, like when somebody has that moment, like you said, at mile 20, where things just get really, really hard.
Mhm.
What do you remember saying to yourself, or maybe Alicia or your husband, like what powered you through to the end? Because the 6 miles is 6 miles. It's gonna take a minute. It's a tough point to like mentally be in your head. So like, how did you pull yourself out of it if you remember?
So just narrowing it down to the very simple point of one foot in front of the other, and just as long as you're moving forward, you will finish at some point. So I was just trying to daydream, listen to music, kind of get out of my body instead of just thinking of how painful it was and, oh my gosh, when am I going to finish? It was just, once I hit halfway, I'm like, every step is closer to the finish line than it is to the start line. So forward movement, that's all I was focusing on, just keeping my head down and getting it done that way.
Yeah. Was it helpful to have your husband there with you? Like running it with you?
It was because he is somebody that is good at everything. He can naturally run far without it bothering him. And so a lot of the training, I would get so frustrated. I'm like, how are you not dying after that long run? I was like incapacitated and he would be totally fine. But on this marathon day, once we, hit our new territory, he was actually hurting. He was saying like F this.
Mm.
I never got to see him like that on our run, so I felt validated, like we were suffering together, and he always says unit cohesion through shared misery, and I really feel
That's
like
great.
that we were bonding over our shared misery.
Yeah, hey, what a better experience than to suffer with your husband for like
Right.
5+ hours.
It
It's
was
great.
great. We fully understood each other.
Yeah, fine. You're like, finally, you get where I'm coming from.
Yes, yeah, that's how I feel after 2 miles.
Yeah, right. So funny. Well,
Yeah.
cool. So you guys crossed the finish line. What was the finish line feeling like for you? Like, what did you get to feel that sense of accomplishment, I guess, that you normally get to feel when you have the big finish line with the crowds and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I just remember when she said that it was 26.2, I was surprised because I was just like in this like mission mode of forward, forward, forward. And then we were done. And then it hit me. I was so emotional because I think all of that training and all of those difficult runs and all of the support of everyone that was watching my videos at the time kind of flooded into me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe we just did that." So I just remember like crying so much, and then being so thankful it was over, and then realizing we still had to walk back to her house,
Oh,
which
no.
was like, to me, felt like miles away because everything was just, it hurt. My legs were like locking up,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How far was it? Do you remember? Was it like multiple miles or?
Not multiple miles. It maybe like a mile.
Oh, still, that
Yeah, I
feels
don't know.
feels like multiple miles after you run
Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
But cool. I'm glad that you got to sit in that experience though. Even though it was virtual, even though it didn't kind of go in like how you expected it to. It's good that you had that chance to like really let it soak in that you did something that cool.
Yes.
What do you feel like big difference it feels like you as a person from when you started training to when you finished your first marathon? What do you feel like are some things that changed about yourself throughout that whole process?
I think from having kids, I knew that I could do hard things, but with specifically running, there's a different sense of you can do hard things. When you push through training and you stick with it, because I finally didn't quit something. So that was a turning point for me in you can push through something to completion, and that could be the new like you don't have to be the old Erin that quits everything. So I think that was really huge for me, is just sticking with something and staying consistent and knowing that like I could hit a crazy goal that I never in my life thought that I would do.
Yeah, it really changes your perspective. I felt like that a lot too after my first marathon. It's like everything else feels smaller somehow because you did this massive huge thing just for yourself. So like
Yeah.
everything else that you tackle just feels like it's more manageable, or at least you have that
Yes.
perspective of like, well, this is, I can call my doctor and make an appointment because I just ran a
Yes.
marathon last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels
Yes.
doable.
Yeah, for sure. Or if something seems like it's lasting too long, it's like, well, I was just running for like over 5 hours. So
Totally. Totally. Yeah. It definitely helps in a lot of aspects of your life. And I know you've ran a couple of marathons since then. So you didn't
Mhm.
completely write it off after the first experience. We don't
No.
have to get like into the nitty-gritties of all the marathons, but like did you end up when did you return back to the marathon distance after that first marathon? And then what were some of the things that you changed as you kind of ran like marathons since?
After the first marathon, I was so determined to run I I'm calling it a real marathon, but I just mean like uh an
Like a
official
sanctioned
one.
race.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
sanctioned race.
Yeah, yeah.
And because I feel like I didn't get that experience with the first one. So I was just determined. And that's when I ran New York City. And I kind of had very similar training and very similar race experience that in that race. The following year, I ran Chicago because that was when I'm like, I feel like if I'm not training for a marathon, I won't run anymore.
Mm,
So I ran Chicago, but I realized after that that's actually not the case because I need to run. I need the cardio for my mental health. I need it for my overall health, like everything. So I had a lot of fun just running whenever I wanted to and however I wanted to. Sometimes I would blindly follow what my watch would say to do one day, and I found a lot of freedom in that. And then my most recent one was London a few weeks ago,
yeah.
and which yeah, like I said, was the first time I did everything right, and I felt it. I felt like everything was right.
Yeah, so the strength training, what were some of the other things? Like did you dial in fuel or like training plan was different?
Yes.
What were some of those things?
The huge difference, or two huge differences. One was the strength training, which I mentioned, and the other one was doing the Galloway method. So I was
Mm.
doing running for the marathon. I was running 60 seconds, walking 30 seconds, and I ended up PRing by like 17 minutes or
Oh my
something.
gosh,
I
wow,
know.
that's great.
So now I'm like, wait, I want to try and break 5 hours doing the
Yeah.
Galloway method. Like I just felt like it was so much more doable. I wasn't completely dead at the end. I didn't have any pains that stopped me in my tracks and I had to go to the side and stretch. Like I just felt I felt good. I know I really dialed in my hydration and fueling, like nutrition leading up to the race, which and I like researched it more. I actually learned instead of just assuming what it meant to be hydrated and what it meant to carb load. I think that helped for sure on race day. But yeah, those were the two main differences in the training.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of a similar question to things that you learned about yourself from that first marathon. Like what do you feel like since that experience you've been able to learn or grow or, kind of change it in yourself as a person since then?
I think as a person, just more confidence in myself in terms of what I can accomplish. So even if it's something, for example, bigger than what the marathon seemed to me at the time, I don't second guess myself anymore. I don't second guess training. I'm like, this is it. Just stay consistent, trust the process. And that's kind of how I am in my real life, in my life outside of running as well. Just like trust the process, get through it. Um, yeah.
Love it. That's great. Cool. Well, I always love to ask after we tell these stories for a piece of advice. I think I always said it before we started filming, but a lot of newer runners that listen to the show and a lot of runners who are thinking about running their first marathon or just starting to train. So if you could offer like a piece of advice from your experiences to somebody like that, what do you think you'd say?
Okay. Is this like on race day?
Maybe we could do both. Maybe we could do like the beginner runner, just kind of starting their journey first. And then we can
Okay.
talk about
Okay.
like, yeah, advice just for marathon runners too.
Beginner runner, my number one piece of advice is slow down because so many people get shin splints because they're running too fast and landing too hard, and also they always say I can't get past a half mile or I can't get past some distance, a mile, whatever it is. It's because you're running too fast because you're looking at how fast other people are running. Even if it's like a walking pace and you're doing the running movements, stay there. You will run so much further and you'll get faster in the process.
And you'll like it. Like
And you'll like it.
people
Yeah.
who come to me and they say they don't like running. I think I said this on the last episode too, but it's like I always ask them, "Did you go rip a mile full speed?" That's why you don't like running. Like, of course,
Right,
I don't
right.
like running full speed for a mile either. So yeah,
I don't
that's a great one.
either. I don't
Yeah,
either. And then I think for race day, my advice, which I actually had to tell myself before the London Marathon, you cannot control a million variables on race day. You could have done everything perfect in your training. The weather might be hot and humid, cold and rainy. You might be getting your period. You might have a stomach ache. All these things you cannot control. Just start and know that you will figure it out. You can't, if you're stressing about it, you're going to raise your heart rate. It's going to be a miserable experience. Just embrace the chaos.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
no marathon's ever going to be the same. It's
No.
something's going to happen, whether something
Yes.
like amazing is going to happen that swings your way, or it's something
Yeah.
that's like maybe a little less amazing is gonna happen. Like it's you never know. So
And
just
you
I love
might,
that.
oh, in my case, had 20 things stacked against me, and then I had the best marathon ever.
There
So
you
it
go.
could go the opposite way, you know?
Yeah, I've heard that
Just
time
go.
and time. Yeah, like
Yeah.
people who have the worst training blocks and then come out with a PR. It's
Yeah.
you just literally never know.
Yeah.
Um, well, cool. Well, thanks for that. At the end, I'd like to ask a few fun questions, and we're gonna continue to talk a little bit more, like informally, for a couple minutes after we get through these questions on the bonus. So make sure that you head over there after this. But a few fun questions. I always give the disclaimer when it comes to fuel and shoes that this is your own journey. Like, try everything out when it comes to
Yeah.
fuel. It's everybody's so specific. Same thing with shoes. Go to your local running store, get your feet measured, all that good stuff. But for you, what have you liked for fuel over time? What have been some of your favorite options?
For fuel, my classic go-to, I know this is like polarizing, but I love goos. The indulgent flavors are the only ones I go to. I love alternating like in a marathon between caffeinated and uncaffeinated. They are just a solid thing that I trust.
Yeah.
Also this training block, I got really into Scratch energy chews.
Love Scratch. Yeah.
Yes. Their flavors are not like overwhelming and disgusting, and I like the texture. They just like go down easy. And then also bonk breakers. Those were like that trifecta, and
Cool.
I used all of them during the marathon also cuz if you're running for a while, you're going to get sick of if you're doing all the same thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring different textures because you just like never know what
Yes.
your stomach's gonna do.
Yeah.
I love that. I haven't tried. What did you call them? The what was the
Bonk
breaker one that you just said?
breakers.
Bonk breaker. I haven't heard of that one. What are they?
Um, they're kind of like Scratch Chews. They're like a gummy.
Mm.
Um, I just love the taste of them so much. Especially, I think it's like a tropical flavor or something, and they fill me up. Like sometimes when you're running and you just feel like empty,
Mm.
you're running on empty, and I have those, and I just feel like satisfied, but not like you're gonna throw up.
Right.
Full.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
Just enough. Yeah.
And they're
Okay.
called
Cool.
bonk breakers for a reason because they prevent you from bonking, I guess.
All right. Hey,
Yeah.
I buy it. I'm gonna have to try them out.
I know.
I love it. Cool.
Yeah.
And then what about shoes? What have you liked for shoes over time?
Shoes over time, I've been on quite the journey. And I think a lot of it was facilitated once I started working with brands. I would get to try all these different shoes. But my favorite shoes that you know how when you put on a new pair of running shoes that you're just trying on, you're like, okay, it fits my foot, it feels pretty good, it's comfortable. But
Yeah.
for the most part, you can run in all of them, really. They kind of all feel the same. When I
Yeah.
tried on the Adidas, oh wait, let me get the name right. The Audi Zero Evo SLs.
Yes, I've been seeing those everywhere.
Yes. That was the first time where I was like, what is this? It felt different on my foot. It was so light. I felt like it was cheating because it kind of like makes makes it easier to run. I
Yeah.
don't really know. It was that was the first time that happened to me. Those have been my go-tos lately for sure. And yeah, I'm really into Adidas right now. For a while, I was into Reebok. They have a Float Zig 1, and maybe 2 is out now. Just for something like for shorter workouts, maybe speed work. They're just like very springy. And yeah, those are my shoes lately.
I love that. I have to go try out these Adidas shoes because I think you're like the third person that said
You
that
have
almost that
to.
exact same thing. Like they
You
feel
have
different.
to. Yes, they feel different. Like and I also like because I have wider feet and they're not, even if it's not like a wide size, it's roomy, like a roomy toe box. It's just I love. The only thing that I heard from some people, and that maybe this depends on how it lays on your foot, but the tongue either didn't stay in place or it was like hitting their ankle wrong. I'm not really sure, but that's something to look out for when you're trying them on.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of shoe demos, and I feel like that's a newer shoe. So I'm sure if you went to like your local Fleet Feet or something like that, I'm sure that they have little demos, things that you can go run in it and check it out. So that's cool. I'll have to check it out myself. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for walking us through your first marathon story. That was great. Like I said, we're going to jump over to the bonus and just keep the conversation going for a few extra minutes. But for our regular listeners, where can they find you if they want to follow along or continue to follow along with your journey?
If you're into short form content, I'm on TikTok, Mrs.Space.Cadet. Instagram, I'm Mrs. Space Cadet. Or you could just search Erin Azar if that's easier. Also on YouTube, Mrs. Space Cadet. And if you're into longer form stuff, which you are listening to a podcast right now, I have a podcast called Non-Members Only. We call ourselves a sports podcast, but we also spill some tea and talk about lots of overly personal things on there.
Love it. I'll make sure to link everything too. And your podcast is hilarious. So definitely go check it out.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'll link everything in the show notes. We're going to head over to the bonus and appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok, that's at myfirstmarathonpod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at pay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.